Okay, well, I just want to welcome everybody. We are the Washington State Association of Head Start and ECAP. We are a C3 organization that represents the interest of Head Start and ECAP providers, parents, and of course, children. I'm Joel Ryan. I'm the executive director of the association. Hi, Jennifer. This session is part of a series of candidate forums focused on families with young children. Each of the forums is being recorded, and we're going to make it available to you as well as be on other digital platforms. We're trying to keep the forums to about 30 minutes. We've had pretty good luck at doing that, and the questions are uniform to each of the candidates. There is an opportunity for people to ask questions after we're done going through our questions. And I think that's it. And I think, again, today we're joined by Jennifer Sefzik. She is running for the 42nd Legislative District, Washington State. That's up in the Bellingham area. And we're just glad you're joining us today. And if you wanted to just take a minute and just introduce yourself and what interests you in joining us. And thanks again for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Oh, well, certainly. Well, yes. Well, my name is Jennifer Sefzik, as you've said before, and I'm excited about running. This is my first time to run for office. I have a business background, then spent about the last 12 to 15 years raising my family and focusing on a lot of volunteer work in the community, especially with youth. So I worked with them doing coaching, speech, and debate activities for young people. So anyway, that's been a lot of fun,
Cool. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Yuval. I think he's going to start us off. So go ahead, Yuval.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. So our first warm-up question is, since our forum is focused on young children and families, what was your favorite children's book growing up and why?
Oh, my favorite children's book. Oh, well, actually, it's probably obscure now, but I liked a little series called The Borrowers Afloat. Does anybody remember those? Mm-hmm. Oh, it was so cute. April does. They were little people that lived in a miniature world, and so they did all kinds of fun things that were on the micro scale level. So that was fun for me.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so throughout our next few questions, we'll have some of our parents ask you questions themselves. So
Sure.
First up, we'll have one of our parent leaders, April.
Hi there. I would like to know, what is your definition of early learning?
Early learning. Well, gosh, babies and children are born learning from the moment they come out of the womb. So I think they're learning from the time that they arrive here. As far as more of an academic definition, I'm assuming that might be something that would be preschool is kind of what I think, but y'all might have to inform me more what the actual parameters of that would be.
Awesome, thank you. Crystal, I think, oh, Anna, you're up.
Yeah, I was like, my turn, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Research shows that investments in comprehensive early childhood education pay off, particularly for disadvantaged children and families. ECAP is a high-quality, comprehensive early learning program that serves some of the most at-risk families. Do you support ECAP funding? Why or why not?
I'm so sorry. Could you back up a little, that last part?
Sorry.
Yes. That's okay.
Which part do you need me to back up on?
I don't know. It's just the last sentence.
Couple sentences, yeah.
Okay. ECAP is a high quality, comprehensive early learning program that serves some of the most at-risk families. Do you support increasing ECAP funding? Why or why not?
Well, I am, as a candidate, I'm still learning about a lot of these programs, but I certainly think if it is serving, children that need it, I would be in support of, funding it and making sure that those programs would stay in place.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Our next question is, childcare providers are some of the lowest paid workers oftentimes making less than parking lot attendants and dog walkers while families struggle to afford and find affordable care. What will you do to make childcare more affordable for families and increase wages and benefits?
Mm. Yeah, this is definitely an issue right now. I've read a couple articles about the ones that have gone out of business up in the Whatcom County area. And I think one of the things that I've heard is there are just so many regulations that make it difficult on those businesses to be able to hire and maintain workers, because there's a lot of programs in place that are mandatory for them that kind of tie their hands a little bit. So I'm not sure exactly what all of those are, but I would certainly want to try to make it easier for them to be able to hire qualified workers and be able to secure those, because it's a very important service to offer our families.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question will be asked by Crystal.
Hello.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi. Okay, I have a question. I actually possibly have two here. My first question is, only 5% of Washington State's eligible families receive home visiting from federal, state, and local funding, leaving many families unserved. What are your plans to support pregnant moms and families with newborn children? And are you going to work towards expanding policies around family leave, early ECAP, and home visiting?
You know, those are areas that I would have to say I'm still learning about, that I need a more educated understanding of what the purpose of those programs would be. So at this point, I would say I don't feel especially qualified to give an opinion on those. I feel like I need to learn more about that. So.
Okay, and I have one more additional question. Since you've worked with youth, how familiar are you with special education? Special needs children?
Somewhat familiar. My niece was a special needs. She's blind. And so I'm familiar with the program. Now that was in Texas. I'm familiar with some of the programs that she had all through school. She was blind from birth. But as far as other special needs, I'm open to learn and to be educated about that, certainly.
Okay, and are you willing to support more services? With the rise of autism and other diagnoses in our community, we are lacking. Even if we have childcare, we don't have childcare. So are you willing to support these high quality programs so we can actually work? Because unfortunately, even though daycares say they welcome them, we don't see that.
Right, I understand that's an area where there needs to be a lot of support, and that's a very, very much needed area. I would certainly encourage and support that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, prior to COVID-19, 1 in 11 children were homeless. Due to the pandemic, we have seen an increase in homeless children and families. What will you do to ensure children have a safe and stable housing?
Safe and stable housing. Well, of course, there are so many things going on right now because of COVID, with people not having steady employment, people needing more help and more services. I actually made a visit down to our homeless shelter a couple weeks ago in Bellingham, the Lighthouse Mission, and they're doing some incredible work there to support. So I know that private organizations, charitable organizations can come alongside and help in those areas. But as far as we're talking about the breakdown of the family and anything that we can do to support families, I think is important as far as partnerships with the community to help with parenting. And then of course we have wonderful services in our community to do that. I've been involved in some of those here too. But yeah, housing is a real issue. I mean, being able to have affordable housing up here, our prices are just going up and up right now with all the people fleeing Seattle, which is driving the prices of housing up even more. So it is a real issue that needs to be addressed, and there's a lot of areas and ways to do that. But yeah, that's going to be a high priority.
Thank you for all that. Our next question will change topics a little bit. What will you do to ensure every child has access to the best available medical and mental health and dental care?
Again, that's another area that, I'm learning about and how these things work, as far as the programs that we have in place, certainly for Medicare, those that are underserved. I know that there are private organizations right now in our community. Somebody was just telling me one the other day. Ooh, I wrote it down, but again, some of these areas I'm still learning about and looking forward to being better educated on as far as the access points. A lot of policy areas are new to me, and so I will do what I can to ensure that they receive those services and whatever is available, to them.
Thank you. April will be asking our next question.
Yeah, sorry, I've got my granddaughter over here who's about to jump over. Early learning is about 1% of the state's budget. In your opinion, is the state of Washington investing sufficiently in early childhood education?
That doesn't sound like very much, 1%. So again, this sounds like an area that I need to be educated on and informed to see what needs to be done. If that needs to be increased, I certainly am open to learning and hearing the case for it to be, looked at and expanded if that's a good idea. So
Awesome,
I don't have an educated opinion is what I'm saying.
No, I appreciate the fact that you're open to learning. Like, that's why we wanted to do these, right? We want to know
Exactly.
Right.
help where we can.
Right.
You've always
Nearly 1 in 5 children do not get enough to eat in the U.S. What is your plan to ensure all children and youth get the nutrition they require?
What are the statistics in Whatcom County? Do you know, or I guess in the state? You said in the country. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I do not have that in front of me. Joel, I might have that information.
It's a similar pattern in terms of food insecurity in the state. But that's a good question for Whatcom. I know Crystal is from Whatcom. That's a good question. I mean, I think we know for sure that there's been a lot more need in this area, and that food banks have been overrun, I guess, with people during the COVID crisis.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, we definitely have resources and help in Whatcom County. I'm very thankful for that. But there still are families that do struggle because we are, of course, doing school at home right now. They're not transporting the food now. So some families don't have transportation to go pick up the food, or maybe the food isn't what your children eat. Like me, myself, I have a child on the spectrum. He won't eat the food that they give. So I can't count on the food from the school. I still have to purchase my own, and I can't work. I'm a single mom. So having to figure out how to, find the food when you're on limited food stamps, because the pandemic EBT only is going to come in quarterly if it even comes. So the last time we got anything was July. So we have to wait, possibly if we're eligible, until next November to get any additional food funds. So that's where, even though we have these programs set up, some families are still not eligible or able, I should say, to use them, or even if they are able to use them, they may not be appropriate for their needs because of their child's diet or sensory issues.
Right. Yeah, actually, during the pandemic, I've worked with several food programs. Starting in March, I started volunteering at our Ferndale Senior Center, and so that's where the seniors, all their activities have been shut down, and so we had a program on Wednesdays where they would come and pick up like 7 meals, for the week, for each person, and some fresh groceries and that sort of thing. But I've also been involved with the Gleaners, the food bank. There is so much food during this time. That was just an abundance of food because you had so much from the grocery stores extra, and then from the restaurant and the hospitality industry, that we're just trying to give it away all the time. So it's a matter of like, how do you connect the people with all the food? There seems to be a missing piece there, but just an oversupply of the missing piece. Where's the bridge to get it from people who need it to where it is? So.
Yeah, and it was really helpful when the school district was delivering the food with the buses. But now that they stopped that, I think that's where the big hurdle came in for a lot of families. And then families like mine that have dietary restrictions or, won't eat select foods.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I have one of those eaters too. He's in college now and he's still a picky eater. Mm.
Our next question is, how will you ensure that all children and youth have access to high quality, safe, and supervised before and after school programs as well as summer programs?
How will I ensure they have access to, I'm assuming what you're saying, these are programs that would be in the school or things like the Boys and Girls Club.
Similar to, yeah, like the Boys
Yeah.
and Girls Club,
Yeah.
things like that.
I don't know how I have, I don't know how all that works, honestly. So I can't answer that. Certainly want to make sure that programs are available. We have community partners to do that. Again, I'm assuming there's funding involved as far as how much different groups need. Again, I know there's some great programs out there. I have some friends who do after school clubs in the schools, and they do a great job. And those are just private programs. They're called Child Evangelism Fellowship, Gospel Clubs, and they have kids come and they have a really great turnout for those as well. So,
No, thank you for all that. And thank you for hanging in here with us. We're going to start entering into our last question before we open up the floor to follow-up questions.
Okay.
If elected, what will you do to ensure that Washington State provides every child access to high-quality early learning opportunities, and is one of your strategies to include progressive revenue?
Again, these are areas that I'm still learning about, and I'm sure that there's a pocket of the population that needs access to early learning. Again, I'm still learning and look forward to being educated on what pockets and what people and areas need these. Now, what was your last question about a progressive?
Yes, one of the strategies to approach high quality early learning opportunities is progressive revenue. And we are wondering, is one of your strategies to propose and include progressive revenue?
What, can you explain that to me? Because I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah, so that I can do that for you, Jennifer.
Thank
So, basically with the budget deficit that we're facing, are you open essentially to new taxes, whether those are capital gains or payroll or other taxes to help offset some of the potential budget cuts, or do you feel like it should be mostly a budget cutting exercise? How do you go about doing that? And obviously, if we're going to be able to expand early learning in a tough budget climate, how do we do that? So I'm curious to kind of get your philosophy on that.
Yeah, it's like we need a magic wand, don't we?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, these are going to be hard times coming up as we, fortunately, I think there was a little bit of good news the other day that maybe it's not going to be as bad as we thought it was going to be as far as the original projections on the deficit. And, revenues are coming in as we can get, people back to work. I'm more in the camp that would prefer not to raise taxes on our businesses and families of people who've already been hurt during this time. So many people, have been impacted severely during this time. So I would work as hard as I could, probably not to raise taxes, but try to find areas where we could have targeted reductions. I don't, certainly nobody wants to cut services to vulnerable parts of the population and those who need it. So it's trying to find that right balance of saying, where can we tighten down, maybe not expand things that were in the previous legislative session. Maybe we can put a pause on some things that haven't been enacted yet. There were a lot of new programs in the supplemental budget this last session that maybe we can hold off on those so it's not cutting services that people are already used to. So anyway, it's going to be a hard time. I know that. And I think there's some areas where we'll just have to see what we can do to tighten our belt a little bit. People are always talking about, can we reduce, levels of bureaucracy in places where there might be waste. Again, it's going to be hard. There's no easy answers. And certainly trying to find that is going to be a challenge. And I realize that. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. And now I would love to open the floor to see if anyone would like to ask any follow-up questions or questions similar to the ones that have been asked.
Do you guys, are y'all all homeschooling right now? Is everybody taking care of kids and trying to work? Is that what are you guys?
Yes, I got somebody doing some homework in the other room for sure.
Oh, yeah. So how many different
Yeah.
school districts do we have going on here?
Well, I'm from the Ferndale School District.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm in Ferndale.
I was from the Blaine, but I'm actually,
You muted yourself, Crystal.
You muted yourself, Crystal.
oh,
But I'm
sorry.
sure.
I was in the Blaine district, but I pulled out to homeschool through the Bellingham Partnership Program.
Right.
Yes, so I'm doing that right now. It's just with, again, special education, having my son sit in front of a screen is not, it's impossible.
So hard. How are you doing, Anna?
Well, it's struggling right now. Like, I don't know. Like my son, he has a severe speech delay, and he also has ADHD and is on the sensory processing spectrum. And he's flourishing. He's flourishing with this online, but my daughter is not. My
Right.
daughter is very ADHD, oppositional defiance, and it's meltdowns almost every single day before class, during class. So it's really stressful because we have support, don't get me wrong. The special ed team at Central Elementary in Ferndale is amazing. They have been dealt this really hard hand, but my daughter is one of them that remote learning is not, I don't want to say not appropriate, but she's not thriving at all. And it really makes me worry about her being successful after kindergarten for school, for
Mhm.
sure.
That's tough. That's tough. I know. I have a daughter who's in college right now. It's hard on the college end too, because kids go to college to have a college experience, and my daughter is dyslexic, and so she's really struggling with the online classes right now at the college level. So I totally, all of many students are struggling right now, which is, and parents. What about you, April? Do you have kids in school?
I sure do. I've got 4
Yeah.
in school, and I'm providing childcare for my daughter who doesn't have childcare because of COVID. So, yeah.
Wow.
We always say if only April would let us see behind her virtual background, there would be.
I mean, you got a little glimpse into
Yeah, we saw a little cutie pie there.
that.
Well, Jennifer, do you want to just make any kind of a final thought or anything you want to just leave us with?
Oh, well, thank you for your time, and thank you for understanding that as a candidate, we're still learning a lot of things, and there, it's kind of like everybody wants to talk to you about every possible policy issue out there, and so my knowledge on some things at this point is still, definitely a work in progress. So thank you for being patient, but again, I'm open to learn and listen. I don't claim to be an expert on anything yet, but what I did when I was coaching policy debate is we would have a year of government policy. And so we would spend a year immersed in some topic for the full year. And so anyway, so I'm used to looking, analyzing, listening to cases, researching, and trying to find, ways to look at the evidence and see how we make decisions, and good policy from that. So again, it's a learning curve, and I thank you for taking the time to just, start my process of education on this area. So,
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us.
Children, I have my 3, and when we were as young marrieds, my husband and I always enjoyed working with the kids in church and Sunday school and those sorts of things, so that we could just be around them, because I do love and want to see them thrive. So,
Great. Well, thanks. Yeah, thank you for joining us, and really appreciate it. And we will circulate this and send this to you, of course, and you can use it and disseminate any way you'd like. But thank you. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and all the best to you guys as you continue on.
Thank you for everything.
All right.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.